Hey book. Hi booktube. So this is kind of a review video. It's kind of more of like a kind of general musing on a book than a review. More a specific factor of the book. And the book is The Princess Bride by William Goldman. I didn't really want to do a review because I don't think this really needs a review. It's it has a cult following in both the book and the film, and everyone's heard of it, more than likely, most people, and it really doesn't need me saying, oh, you need to read this, because everyone knows they need to read it, and everyone knows that, you know, it's pretty good. It is really good. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was so good, so funny, so gripping, so unique as well, and I wanted to talk about a specific aspect of the book that I really enjoyed, and that is the narrative style, or the narrative frame, if you will. What I mean by narrative frame is the kind of fictional story that encases the main brunt of the novel. So the main brunt of the novel is the story of Wesley and Buttercup. If you've seen the Princess Bride film but haven't read the book, it's the main story of Wesley and Buttercup and that adventure. But the film's frame narrative is slightly different to the narrative of the book. So in the film, you get a man, kind of a grandpa, just reading this book to his grandson whilst his grandson's ill, and that's kind of the main gist of it. However, in the book, there's this kind of, it's like a semi-autobiographical frame, because it is narrated by William Goldman himself, but a kind of fictionalized version of himself. So this fictionalized version of himself has a son, where in real life he has 2 children that are 2 girls, and in the book he has a wife called Helen, and I think in real life he has a wife called Eileen or Elaine or something like that. And so we already know that this is fiction. However, he does allude to things such as his writing for the screenplay Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which he did in real life, and the kind of elements of his life that are real, which add a kind of verisimilitude to the idea of the story. Okay, so basically the story is presented to us as an abridgment, and it's an abridgment of a story that semi-fictional, semi-autobiographical, semi-fictional William Goldman, when he was younger, was read to by his father a book called The Princess Bride by an author called S. Morgenstern, but no such book in real life exists. However, when his son turns 10 and he wants to give this book to his son as a present, because it's his favourite book of all time, he has so much love for this book and he wants his son to love it. But when his son doesn't love it, he realises that the book is actually massive and there's a lot more to it than he remembers, and this is because his father only read him the most exciting bits. And S. Morgenstern is presented as an author that can waffle on for a lot of nothing for a very long time. So Goldman decides to abridge this novel and only write down the exciting bits like his father read to him. So I think this is genius, because I think that this gives William Goldman free rein to break the rule of show don't tell, because he literally gets to write all of the exciting bits and then kind of skim over the non-exciting bits or things that he doesn't want to write about maybe as much, and he can just tell us what happens and be like, oh, so this does this and then she goes here and that's about it, and we'll move on to the more exciting bit. So it's just so fun. When I discovered this is what he's doing, I just had to pause, and I just thought, this is the most ingenious way to write a novel ever, because you could just write it and not get bored, because you're like, oh, you're writing, I don't really want to write this bit. You know, when you're writing, I don't know if any of you write, you know, when you're writing a story or a novel, you're like, I know which bit I really want to write. There's a really exciting scene that you want to get to, but you have to kind of get through the brunt of the kind of boring stuff to get to that point. Goldman arguably doesn't. He literally can just kind of waffle on about how he's abridging this novel and then kind of skim, like, write kind of in brief kind of certain bits of it and then write his favourite scenes in actual lengthy prose. And I think that is just genius. I wish I came up with that. I don't know if anyone else, I don't know if this is, I'm overreacting, I just think that it's just so good. Like, I just hadn't heard of anyone talking about it, about the specific narrative style before, and so I just wanted to talk about it. Another thing I really liked about the novel was I love novels that kind of seep into reality, if that's the right phrase. The kind of novels that have elements that kind of exist beyond the physical book itself. For example, I don't know if anyone else did this, but when I was younger, when I read a series of unfortunate events, there's like I vaguely remember emailing the publisher or a kind of publisher that is mentioned in the book that you can ask, and like you can ask, oh, who is Lemony Snicket, because it's like a pen name or something. And I remember getting an email back telling me never to email them again, like it's a top secret, you can't email or something like that. And it just goes really well with the story, and it just adds something more to a story. It kind of builds a world, and I really think it seeps into reality, and it gives it more authenticity and verisimilitude and all those other words. But it just adds some kind of magical element, and I think that this the Princess Bride does this as well, because there's a bit where there's a scene that Morgenstern didn't write, but Goldman thinks that it should have been written. So he says to the reader, if they want to read this kind of fan fiction-esque bit that he wrote in place of a missing scene, they can email it, they can write into the publisher and request to read it, because he didn't want to put it in an abridgment, because it wouldn't be an abridgment, it would be him kind of embellishing the novel himself, which I think is so funny. And then so I actually saw if I could email, and I emailed, and I actually realised that I had an edition that had all of this in the back anyway, but you can email them about this, and you get this kind of email back telling you about how there was a lot of copyright reasons why they couldn't actually distribute this one piece of this one scene, and it just is so, I don't know, it just adds something more. I don't know if other people like that. I just think that's just so fun. Like, it's kind of like an Easter egg, you know. You get some of those in films and games, but when books do that as well, I just love that. For example, I don't know, I've never read The House of Leaves, but I have it, and I've heard that there's certain footnotes and websites mentioned in House of Leaves that you can kind of find online, and then it just makes the whole reading experience even more broad and even wider. So it's insane, and I really like that aspect of The Princess Bride as well. I think that, but the narrative style is what really got me, because not only does it make a kind of fun and gripping writing experience, I imagine, for William Goldman, it also makes a really gripping reading experience, and I really do think that's the narrative style and the way he chose to tell that story is what got me out of my reading slump last month, and I became quickly obsessed with it. I love it now. Totally gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I would urge you to read it, if not for the story itself, but for the kind of cleverness of Goldman in his telling of it. I think that was just wonderful. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to say. I'm sorry about the kind of quality of the video. I do have a better camera than this, but it died and it's not in the best condition. I might try and invest in a new camera if I get the scholarship I want for York, fingers crossed. But I don't know if I get the scholarship yet. If I don't get the scholarship, then I will definitely not be investing in a new camera, because I will be very, very poor during my masters. I will have to do it part-time, and I will have to get a job, and we'll see. But yes, I apologise for the camera quality and the lighting problems that we seem to have. But and I also apologise for my voice. I don't know if you can tell, but I am really ill at the moment, and my voice is like struggling right now. It's having a hard time. But yeah, that is what I wanted to say today, and I hope you liked it. I hope you read The Princess Bride if you haven't, and we can all talk about it. If you have, then leave your comment below about what you thought about this cool narrative, ingenious idea that I wish that I had come up with. But yeah, that is about it. So I will see you in the next one. Bye! I'm sorry, the lighting is going really weird. Don't do this to me. The lighting has suddenly gone so weird. I'm sorry. Can we still carry on? I don't know. I'm gonna say yes. I'm going to say that we can.